Okay, so, I haven't done anything like this in ages, but I wanted to just do a sort of roll of the mic thing and talk about something. Because the thing is, I'm really starting to notice a sort of pattern and trend in some individuals, and I kind of want to point it out. Now, I have three case studies of this, and these are three people who I've encountered over the past like 2 or 3. Well, no, it'll probably be the last 2 years. And these people have gravitated around Gage Loudmouth's community and have had multiple things with him and several of the people associating with him. And I've had one or two minor altercations with one of them. The other two, one of them's blocked me on sight, which I don't know if I should take that as a compliment. And the other one I have had. Oh wait, no, I did leave a comment, and for some reason they upvoted it as a positive comment because apparently I made fun of him, and apparently that was like okay. So So the three people I'm going to be using as case studies are Purgatory Highlight Lance, a guy named Dustin Nunn, a homophobic stay-at-home, and a third guy called Mitch, who is basically the same thing as Dustin Nunn, but he has a long history of physically abusing his mother.
Before the whole that I was also raging and beating up my mother and so and so.
Which is, when I say that, I mean like violence. He has apparently repeatedly hit his mother over the course of the time that anyone's actually known him on the internet. He's apparently done this. So there are these three guys. All three of them do not have jobs, live with their parents, and have a fair bit of online notoriety. All three of these guys insist that the reason why they have never even taken off and started in life is because they are autistic. Now, I can believe this. This part I don't doubt on any of these three. Actually, Mitch admittedly hasn't said that he's autistic, but he said that he's got sociopathy and he's got some other stuff. And honestly, I'm expecting him to say it one of these days, like it'll change anything. And as someone who is on the autism spectrum, as someone who grew up in a way that these people grew up, in a way that expectations of me have raised throughout my life, but admittedly they were low because I was non-verbal for the first few years of my life, and when I went to school at like 10 years old, because I had to change schools when I was really young, that school put me through so much that it did a lot of damage for about 10 years. And what progress I'd made up until that point just went completely to shit. So I understand where these people are coming from. And believe it or not, my problem with these people isn't that they don't have jobs or that they have weird traits because of their autism or whatever. Believe it or not, no, that isn't my problem with them. If these people didn't have jobs, it wouldn't bother me. But the thing is, they insist that they can't get jobs because of their autism. But what they can do, instead of having a job, is spend all day online berating people, starting shit, getting into arguments, getting themselves into controversy, and breaking laws in some cases. They can do all this shit, but they can't have a job. They can make multiple videos a day talking shit and starting shit with people, but they don't have the confidence to get a job. And that's where I'm like, no, bullshit. If these people were the kind of people who just, could only make certain kinds of content because of how nervous they are, there are a few people who come to mind, but I won't name those because I don't think that's fair on them. But there are some people who genuinely come across to me as quite nervous and quite lacking in confidence when it comes to doing this shit. And these people are not those kinds of people. They're just really not. And that's why it baffles me when they're like, I can't be anything more than this because I like this or I like that. When they demonstrate on a daily basis that they can do this, they have the ability to put themselves out there. They have the ability to make things. They have the ability to speak. But that's just like the opener. That's not the main meat and potatoes of this, because I want to talk about these three people's absolute shit behaviour and their fallback excuse of, it's okay guys, no really, I've got autism, so I'm exempt from being responsible for my own actions. As someone who is on spectrum to the point where they had a rather different educational setup, I didn't go to a special school, I went to a normal school, but that school had certain provisions and certain environments. It's not exactly like special ed, because I'm trying not to make that mistake of making people think that's what it was, mainly because it wasn't. People who had these provisions could potentially, if they personally wanted to, do the entire school life without ever seeing this place, without ever having any interaction with it. It was down to them and how they behaved and whether or not they were capable of being independent on their own. And I actually worked in this place after graduating. When I was 20, I dropped out of university because I just couldn't do that shit, and got told by the person who ran it that they would like me on staff. So I took that job, and to tell you the truth, I really enjoyed the job up until about 2 or 3 years ago, when COVID happened and we had a complete managerial shake-up. I could write a book about everything that went wrong at that time, and there were various problems. But one problem that actually did my tits in around this time was the abundance of kids who do what these three fuckwits do now, where they see a disability not as something to overcome, not as something to be aware of, but something that's like a get out of jail free card, where you can be like, oh, I was caught doing something shitty, but I can pull out my little card here that says I have the ability to evade trouble because I am on this spectrum, and you have to respect that. Despite the fact that I'm not too on spectrum to get into trouble, I'm certainly too on spectrum to get out of it. And I hate that. It actually pisses me off, because the three individuals I'm talking about here use this kind of shit to justify. One of them uses it to justify perjury. He's basically false flagging anything where he's even mentioned. And he also has a history of going on illegal websites and hanging around with people who ended up in prison for child trafficking related charges. And this guy's like, oh, well, if I ever get into court, and I've got this recording, I'll gladly put it in this video so that people can hear how fucking scummy these people are, but if I ever get into court, I'll just tell them that I'm autistic, so they won't be able to sentence me.
I'm just getting sick and tired of talking about it. Yeah, well, the investigation continues on, or starts. It's for my behalf, and say that the charges shouldn't be too severe since I'm autistic. Or the charges should be dropped since I'm autistic. You know, just use that as an scapegoat. Because someone on YouTube gave that idea to me. I could easily escape the situation with saying that I'm autistic. I didn't know any better. I made a simple mistake. And I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, you know. The simplicity of it. Just think about how beautiful it is. Yeah, I know. Using that as an scapegoat.
Which, A, that's not how that fucking works. And B, even if it was how that worked, you'd be a piece of shit for doing it. They don't care, though. These people have no morality. Talking to them directly is a waste of fucking time. Then you get Dustin Nunn, who sits at home all day talking about his bigoted views, which he blames on his Christianity. But honestly, his views aren't Christian. I'm sorry, they're just not. He has a religious bias that isn't even geared up about his religion. And he just bangs on about how gay people don't deserve rights, and how, like, he also has a thing against, like, black people and just anything else. It's just bizarre. Like,
I'd like to talk to you about something that really needs to happen. I have 10 reasons why an anti-LGBT Pride Month parade needs to happen. Number 1, the anti-LGBT Pride Month parade needs to ban LGBT rights forever. Number 2, God created one man and one woman, and that is the way it should be. 6, the queers, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgenders need to be baptized with holy water. That way the queers, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgenders can change their ways and be straight again. You know, love the opposite sex. You know what I mean? All of the churches in the USA and other countries need to support opposite-sex marriages only and not marriage equality. Number 9, soon-to-be former LGBT rights activists, think about that. Soon-to-be former LGBT rights activists need to be taught the Word of God and not the word of Satan. And finally, number 10, children need to be taught that being LGBT is wrong.
I don't know, he's just so obsessed with just bringing other people down, but then cries persecution when people call him out for it, which is just hilariously ironic to me. Because this guy has a long history of just shitting all over people who have several barriers in society, and then he uses his barrier in society as a reason why he cannot be held accountable for his actions and words, which I cannot but find funny. Dustin has a long, sordid history of trying to use his autism to explain why he can't have a job, because he's like, oh, I can't have a job because I'm a dead. And he has actually come up with other excuses, but this is one of the ones he uses. I honestly think Dustin will have a hard time holding down a job, because at this point he's uploaded so much footage of himself saying shit that will get him fired from a lot of companies. It wouldn't surprise me. He also has a history with books. He wrote a book with like a comic strip book, and admittedly his talent in this field, from what I've seen, is he's at least a decent artist. Like, the stuff that he produces looks real. Like, it looks like the kind of thing you would see in a newspaper artist's, like, you know, like the newspaper comic strips at the back. It actually looks like that, and it actually looks good. I don't know if the jokes are funny or not. I've only seen the cover of this book, but from what I can tell, Dustin has some talent in the artistry, And maybe what he's talking about is funny. I don't know. I've not read the comics. I don't want to have to buy an old book because they usually cost a fucking bomb. But apparently, Dustin can't do this anymore because a publisher ran off with his characters. And basically, they own the rights to his characters, and he can't use them anymore. And he doesn't want to make new characters, which is weird because as an author, I always like making new characters. I kind of like coming up with new ideas. I don't know. That's just me though. I know some people write the same things for years, and then other people just can't write the same thing twice. So yeah, I get that everyone's a bit different on that front, but he can't sit down for 5 minutes and think of something new. He's just like, no, that was my one idea. It didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, so I guess that's that endeavor over with, which is a bit funny to me. But one thing that I keep thinking about Dustin Nunn is he has a talent that he can't fully utilize, because let's face it, if that publisher hadn't run off with his creations would never have been used, because A, he's a lazy prick and probably would never have done it, and B, even if he had stepped up to the plate and done the work, there is so much footage of him saying stupid, bigoted shit on the internet that his publisher would drop him. And if you don't believe me, I went to a anti-trans rally based on J.K. Rowling's rousing speech on Twitter, where an entire gathering of people were all there to complain about how their publishers had dropped them for backing J.K. Rowling. Not for saying what she said, but for liking her tweets and sharing her tweets saying this stuff. Their publisher just took one look at them and was like, that is a PR disaster I do not want, and they dropped them. And I know that a lot of people say, oh, well, that's not right, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, I'm just saying how it can be, how it is. Unfortunately, that is the climate that we live in. And when you are on the internet and have a public profile, if you choose to attack a certain group, you have to accept that your publisher might not want to back you attacking that group. And I think, honestly, that's fair enough on the publisher. You know, nobody wants to be pulled into a battle that they never asked for. I've lost friends over that shit over the years, where they pull me into something that I never asked for, and I'm just like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I don't want to start conflict with this person or these people or whatever. And they seem to always take it as a slight or a betrayal that I don't want to throw myself into random drama. And I don't know what to tell you, man. Random causes are just not for me, I guess. But the reason that I wanted to make this was, we've got Lance, we've got Dustin. Mitch admittedly falls into this category in other ways, but if you want a better example linking to the autism thing, I guess you could use Cranium 99, a guy who sends fucking death threats to people. The first time I saw Cranium 99 ever, he attacked a friend of mine randomly just in her comments for no reason. Like, he just appeared. This person was one of the nicest people I know, and they've done a lot for me over the years without even realizing it, because they're just that kind of person, and Cranium just randomly attacked them. And I'll never forgive him for that. It doesn't matter what he says about it or what he does about it, because he attacked her when he believed her to be vulnerable, and he can't undo that. And he attacked another friend of mine. He's attacked people who, honestly, I respect over the years, and I have no respect for him because of it. And I think, again, his excuses are, I'm bullied in school, and I'm autistic, so I can do this, and it's not a problem. Here's the thing, right? I fit that description quite well. I had a lot of fucking damage done to my progress in life as a kid, because of the fact that I was in a place that was so toxic that I couldn't bring things to school without them getting missing or broken. I was hurt so many times over the course of those 2 years. I think I got more fucks up in those 2 years than I have in the rest of my life combined. Some of it was deliberate, some of it was accidental, but when it was accidental, I didn't get good help every time it happened. And I never could say anything without it being used against me. Every mistake I made was used as oh, you did this on purpose. Like, you pick something up and knock something else over as a result, and everyone acts like you did it on purpose. It's that kind of environment. And I had that when I was developing with various difficulties. And for the record, I have my own place. I had my own job up until January, and I ended up quitting my job. I put my notice in because the workplace just got too shitty. I couldn't take it anymore. But yeah, I immediately started looking as soon as I was done, and I've got some things on that today that I'm gonna have to take care of once I finish doing this, because I actually really want to get back into work. I didn't want to be off for this long, but whilst I put in every day for job applications, you don't always hear something back. So, despite this, I was able to find my feet. I was able to... the life I live is normal. And it's honestly good and productive. I'm not dependent on anyone. I'm not sponging off of anyone. And with each passing year, my parents do less for me. I'd like to say that I'm completely self-sufficient, but I'm not just yet. Because, unfortunately, the whole renting out of an apartment situation it means that a lot of my old stuff is back at my parents, and they've had to help me out with some things that I've never seen before in my life. But every time they do, I know that, and I can move forward. These people, on the other hand, though, some of them, like Lance, have had an online presence for over 10 years, and they've done nothing. You can look back at Lance's content from 2012. I've found some of it from that period, and he is no different back then than he is today. Now, if you look at my content from 2012 on one of my old channels, which is lost to the ether now, like I don't connect these two channels because that's just a part of my life I'm leaving behind. Not for any drastic reasons, it's just I don't see the point in linking the two things because they're just not related. But going back to that point in my life, I did things completely differently in all aspects. And in some of those aspects, I did them wrong. And I had to change, and I had to spend years improving myself. And I didn't do it overnight. I didn't just say, I'm a different person now, I'm a better person, because I've decided it. I had to seriously look at my flaws and then be like, okay, I need to improve because of this. At no point in my life have I ever said, I'm this kind of person because of, like, this disability or this problem. Never have I said that. I am actually, in some respects, less equipped to deal with life than Dustin Nunn. Because Dustin can draw and write, but I physically can't. Like, my handwriting is like most people's non-dominant hand whilst drunk, and my hand drawing ability is complete shit. And because I have dyspraxia, and there are a lot of barriers with that. It's really fucking difficult, but at the same time, it's like, that doesn't stop me from doing other things. It doesn't stop me from typing, and it doesn't stop me from, coming up with other ways to get around it. And if you ask your employer or your campus or whatever, they'll provide you with a means. But throughout my entire life, I've always, well, I've not always, but I've often felt a bit like being on these spectrums of disability has been a point of worry for me. Like when I want to bring up the fact that I have a disability, I am always reluctant to do so because I'm always thinking, are they just going to think I'm one of these dicks? Basically, that is what I always think. I always think, do they think that I'm a Lance who's just trying to get out of doing shit? Do they think that I'm a fucking Dustin Nunn? Do they think I'm a cranium if I say I'm sorry that this happened? I sometimes just don't get social cues or whatever. And quite honestly, there's a lot of stigma around it. And you know where that stigma comes from more than anywhere? It is people like this. People like this who give people bad experiences every day and then make everybody look bad. And they use excuses and drag everyone down. And it's almost like in class when there was a grading curve, when 3 idiots to 1 idiot, who is me, are not doing anything with their lives and blaming it on their autism, I am suddenly no longer autistic because these 3 are autistic and they are completely useless waste of space. So how the fuck can you be the same as them? Is the consensus that I often get. Because I've improved so much, my disabilities are called into question constantly by several people in my life who have just decided that I've gone over it because I didn't do what these pieces of shit did. And these pieces of shit drag everyone else down. Because in their eyes, they are owed that leniency, despite the fact that, and they're the reason that people have to mask. They're the reason that people have to pretend that they aren't what they are. Because they don't want to be labelled the same as these fucking parasites. And I've lost so much patience with it. I really have. It's annoying me now. Because it's not even just these 3 idiots. These 3 idiots are just my example of what I'm talking about. If you look at their channels, you see hours of excuses and whining. But then the next day, they're sat there with a big stupid smirky grin on their face like talking shit. They're too disabled to do anything useful with their lives, but they're not too disabled to go after some random person the next day. And I find it, honest to God, ridiculous. They're the reason that fucking stigmatization exists with disabled people. They're the reason that so many people struggle with being seen as real people with real problems. Because these aren't real people. And that's not because of their disability, it's because of the way they've chosen to live their life. These people apparently insist that we should all cheer whenever they do anything good or even just normal. But apparently we should not judge them for it when they don't. So, are you responsible for your own actions or not? Because if you are not, then you cannot be praised. Because what you have done that's good in life, if you are not responsible for your own actions, what you've done that's good in life isn't actually something you've done. It's just a bunch of random actions that have been caused by your disability, which have absolutely no merit or ownership to you. So, if you sending someone a death threat email is your disability, then you winning a fucking race is your disability, and therefore you don't deserve praise, just like you don't deserve condemnation, because your entire life is just a bunch of random actions caused by your disability, and therefore you don't own anything in your life, good or bad. I think that's how these people should be treated if this is the path they choose to take. Because in my eyes, if we accept that their stupidity is not their choice, despite the fact that they willingly choose to do things and are told by people like me, if you do this, this is the consequence, and they do it anyway, then they're one of two situations. They're shitty people that just do whatever they want and then blame something else, or they're completely sad, tragic waste of space who have absolutely no self-awareness, who just bumble through life like a big daddy from BioShock. Pick one. You've set yourself up on that stage. Pick which one of those you are and stick to it. The thing is that annoys me the most is these fucking people, right? These are the kinds of people, right? If their disability was a dodgy bladder, and they would just, let's say for example there was a condition, I don't know if there is, but I'm assuming there is, but let's just say there's a condition where you just randomly piss or shit yourself for no reason, right? I mean, there's probably several, but let's just pretend there's one that has a specific name and you can have it, and for no reason, there's nothing wrong with you physically, but for some reason you just randomly piss or shit yourself, right? These are the kinds of people, right, who if I had it and I went into a new person's house and pissed myself and it went on the carpet, I would be fucking mortified. I would offer to pay for a carpet cleaner and I would be so fucking embarrassed, right? These motherfuckers are not like that. What these people would do is they would drop trow, fucking squat, take a massive Cleveland steamer on the new carpet, and then when the person who invited them into their home turns around like, yo bitch, what the fuck, you just shat all over my carpet, they would then jump up and then start shouting at them because, oh, you're attacking me because of my disability, and they just come up with a bunch of fucking retarded reasons as to why it's okay for them to shit on somebody's carpet deliberately. That's the best way I can describe the difference between people like me and people like them. And it's why it annoys me. What they're doing has nothing to do with their disability, and don't ever think it does, because it doesn't. Even people who are severely disabled have the ability to, and if they don't, they belong in a mental institution. But they have the ability to control their actions. Even, well, you know, except for like tics and things like that. Yeah, okay, there are some things like that. These aren't tics though, right? These aren't impulses that are beyond their control. These people know exactly what they're doing, and they enjoy doing it, but they don't, and they enjoy the blowback, but they don't enjoy it blowing back so hard that they can't stay on their feet. And that's when they start blaming everybody and everything else for their own actions, because, well, that's easier than just accepting that they fucked up and they need to become better people. That's easier than having to do without something in life because they fucked up. Last night, there was a stream and Mitch appeared in it and started he wasn't even listening to anyone saying to him and just kept insulting everyone. Today he's sat on his fucking YouTube channel saying, I need to get away from all the negativity, and what was the other thing he said? He was like, oh, these people just turned up to bully me and blah blah blah. He turned up to just start insulting people. Everybody was criticizing what shit he was talking until that point. It was quite objective. And I also find it funny as well that these people have such a double standard. A lot of this started because Damien Skyfire wouldn't debate somebody, and Mitch felt he was the guy who was able to go in and just be like, oh, Damien is a pussy because he won't turn up for this debate. Gage offered Mitch the exact same fucking offer. He said, if you have a problem with me, you are more than welcome to come in. You are more than welcome to talk to me right now on stream, and we can have a debate. And it didn't happen. Mitch ran away. So is Mitch a pussy now, or is there a good reason why that's not the case? But you see, this is what kind of people these are. They're craven. They're callous and craven, the worst two combinations. They do shitty things and don't care about anybody when they do them, but then run away and hide when people call them out for it. And do shitty things like false flagging and fucking playing victim and deliberately lying to obfuscate facts. If I'm going to be honest, as well, I mean, I've tried to keep this just to autism because, to tell the truth, I could talk about mental health as well. Mental health is a worse issue for this, where people just do what they want, blame mental health. I mean, you got people like a Drastia who do that shit. She's too social anxious to be able to do like a job application, but she can go into a shop and harass security guards. That's not a problem. She can throw herself into the middle of a massive conflict, but she can't write a fucking job application or go to work every day. What the fuck's that about? And we have an endless... Niece Lomos, another one. She does it. She's like, oh, I can't work because I've got the and then when you see her, she's just sat at home all day attacking people on the internet. She's not too anxious to do that. It's gotten to a point where I just think these people really just make me think that sometimes like there's no point to even improving yourself or trying. But then I think when you look at these people, they live such sad lives. I'm just glad I did. I'm glad that they're a nice little reminder of what we'd be if we didn't try. I seriously look at them and I see me at a point in my life, had I stayed at that point forever. If I was 16 mentally forever, that's where I'd be. And they're all miserable. That's why they do these things, because they've got nothing else in their life. And maybe if they wanted something else in their life, they won't ever get it because they've wasted so much of their lives. They've wasted their entire youth behaving ridiculously for the sake of attention. And they have nothing to show for between 28 and 32 years of life, which is both sad and pathetic. So I'll wrap it up because I didn't want this to be any longer than half an hour, and it's about 35 minutes. But I feel like these kinds of people are becoming a bit more commonplace because I feel like they aren't really told no enough by society in general. I think it's the double-edged sword of becoming more accepting of disabilities which I'm not saying that like at all that that shouldn't be the case, because honestly when I was growing up there were a lot of cases where I was in school told off because of things that were my dyspraxia, like my handwriting, or the fact that I never wore shoes with laces on because I can't like coordinate the shoelaces. And I used to get pulled in for wearing trainers every now and then. And I don't make the big fuss that some people do. Like some people are like, oh my god, I am being persecuted against. And no, I'm not like that. I get that these people have a job to do and they've probably never even heard of the condition that I have. And nobody on this planet who has a real job and does a real service to society can have an encyclopedic knowledge of every single fucking condition and disease and disability that known to man, or know that everyone that they see has it, especially these sort of hidden disabilities. But I do appreciate that people are more aware of these things and are a bit more conscious and willing to accept these things. But at the same time, it does my tits in that these people have endless chances in life because they were fortunate enough to be born with a disability. I never got that as a kid. If I did something wrong, it was always, oh, you've done something wrong. These people do shitty things all the time and everybody fucking lets them off. Because it's like, oh, he's too retarded to know what he's talking about. No. These people make decisions on a near daily basis, but these people also insist that it's not their fault when they do anything wrong. And I find it aggravating, to be honest. Just a little bit. Just their mere existence annoys me. Being disabled shouldn't be seen as a bad thing. And I'm not advocating anything like that. I'd never do that because, quite honestly, I've been through that. And I don't think anyone should. I've always held firm the belief that nobody should receive shit in life for something that they didn't even choose. Nobody ever says, do you want to be this or that in these cases? And people say yes. Nobody chooses to be disabled, black or gay or whatever. Nobody chooses that. And therefore you shouldn't receive shit for it. But the thing is, just like it shouldn't be a thing that condemns you to a life of misery, it shouldn't be a thing that is like a lottery, where when you get a disability card, you can just behave how you want without consequence. That should never be the case. And unfortunately, in some sects of this world, it's starting to feel like that is the case. And the stronger your card is, the more of a waste of space you are. And I find that genuinely sad. I mean, I could talk for hours about all the things I think have gone wrong over the years when it comes to autism, social, like in development socially. I feel like I have a bit of a... I don't really like saying a lot of the things that I think because I can't articulate them in a way that doesn't sound like it might come across the wrong way. So I don't like to talk about them, but I do think that this endless fucking cavalcade of excuses needs to stop. And people making these excuses need to think, if I can, instead of making an excuse, come up with a solution, could I solve this problem? And if the answer is still no, can I move on from this problem without it ever happening again? But I don't talk to these people. I don't expect anything of these people because these people have spent their entire life trying to make people have the lowest of expectations of them so that they never have to disappoint anyone. And in the end, I find that utterly fucking pathetic. For those of you who made it to the end, thanks for hearing me out. I know this is a bit of a disjointed mess of doing this on like 3 hours of sleep, and I'm just sort of trying. I've never really said any of this or thought too. I mean, I've thought about it obviously because I knew what I wanted to say for the video, but admittedly just kind of struggle really. I don't feel like I should have to say any of this. I think that's why I find it hard, but unfortunately I do. I always thought I'd be saying the opposite, but unfortunately no, I'm saying I hate these people for it, I really do. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out. Any thoughts I'd love to hear, because, you know, I do have some quite insightful people who view my content, and I actually do enjoy hearing from them, so anything they have to say, I'd love to hear it. apart from that, yeah.